So, Hare Krishna everyone. Welcome to our class on the Nectar of Instruction, which is a verse by verse study course. So, today we will be starting a new verse, which is text number 3, and this will be the part 1 for this verse. We will cover this verse in couple of classes, maybe 2 or 3 classes, and this is our 7th class for this course. So, the topic of this class would be cultivating enthusiasm and determination on the path of bhakti. Now, may I please invite Anupama Mataji from Pune to kindly lead us through the Mangala Charan prayers. Mataji, can you please help us?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थले स्फटिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं साद्वैतं सावधूतं श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्यदेव श्रीकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश हे कृष्ण सिंधो दीनबन्धो गोपेश राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानंद कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Mataji, thank you. Very nicely chanted the Mangala Charan prayers. Probably there was some problem in the connectivity, so that we when we heard your voice, it was coming a little bit breaking. But otherwise, I could recognize that you had chanted very nicely and very correctly. Thank you very much. So now I would like to invite Dr. Ishwar Prabhu from Rohtak, who is a senior vocalist and a very good friend of my dear father. They have been classmates in the past, and now by providence or whatever, Krishna's arrangement, we are having this association in this program. So, Uncle Ji, please kindly help us to recap the previous class. Please, can you unmute yourself?
Sorry. Good evening and Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I am really happy and thankful to Prabhuji for giving me yet another opportunity to talk to you this evening. And this time it is on Nectar of Instruction, verse 2, part 3. As we all know that we being the conditioned souls are suffering the pain of repeated births, old age, disease, death, and so on. So it is imperative that that we must make good use of our current stage of life and develop Krishna consciousness and improve our score in the eyes of the Lord. Because taking to devotional service or bhakti of the Lord is in right earnest is the real key to be a Mahatma, a gentleman who believes in plain, simple living and high thinking. Though it is easier said than done, true devotional service remains a major challenge for most of the devotees as they face many strong impediments in the garb of urges and voices, which, if not tackled properly and timely, play big spoil sports in our ascendancy to spirituality. Amongst the various vices, namely atyahara, meaning eating, collecting more than necessary, priyasa, unnecessary endeavors, prajalpa, meaning unnecessary talking, useless talking, niyamagraha, accepting or rejecting rules, janasanga, meaning bad association, and lolya, a kind of greed. We have covered the first four already in great detail, and also knowing fully well that atyahara, out of all these, is the mother of all vices. Everything begins from here only. The other five vices are just natural corollaries, as atyahara requires excessive priyasa leading to larger associations, janasanga, in other words, then more excessive priyasa leading to janasanga, more useless talking or discussing resulting in prajalpa, then necessitating deviation of rules and routes and regulations to accommodate people with different perceptions, their liking, their idiosyncrasies, and so on. That will be niyamagraha. And finally, to accommodate, and finally, the larger the janasanga, more will be the desires, attachments, greed, lolyam, as we say, and then lust, resulting in anger and frustration. This sort of sequelae to janasanga happens when there is a mole crowd of ordinary people pursuing ordinary goals. This kind of dynamics of sangha can be known very well once we read Gita chapter 2, verse 62, where it is said that while contemplating the objects of senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such an attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. However, if for some good reason or better planning, we are able to associate with Vishnu Janas, godly people, or Bhuri Janas, helpful, decent people, which form true devotees of the Lord, tables can really be turned on atyahara and rest of the vices, utilizing the dynamics of good association that acts via desire, attachment, symbiosis, emotional exchanges, and enhanced effectiveness, where physical proximity may or may not matter much in the long run. And at this juncture, I would also like to add that if we join hands with like-minded people, people who believe in godliness or who are really keen on serving Krishna, like the one we are doing right now in ISKCON, I think things can really work out well. It will be full of enthusiasm and devotion, as we are seeing in our classes day after day. So really a great service, I must say. Now, on the other hand, if a weak-willed person remains in bad association for a long time, he is sure to slide down in ignominy and self-destruction, just as it happened to Kala Krishna Das, Ajamila, and Queen Kaikeyi. A bad company, whatever may be the compelling circumstances, must always be done away with at the earliest. At this juncture, as was stressed by Prabhuji in a very important slide, how bad company affects our progress in Krishna consciousness. I think we need to understand that important concept right here and right now. Just as Atyahara and Janasanga may have variables in quality, quantity, and intensity in damaging Krishna consciousness or devotional service, bad association also shows itself at different levels. Prabhuji told us that it is acting at 3 levels. The primary level acts through desire, where a person temporarily forgets to serve the Lord, repents later on, and comes back again as a devotee. This is a temporary kind of setback and can be taken in strides. The other type is middle level harm that comes through when desire is coupled with loss of intelligence, means failure to distinguish right from the wrong. So this kind of setback is truly more serious, but the worst comes, the most serious downslide happens when faith or shraddha in God or godliness is gone. Retrieval in such cases happens when a person asks for God's mercy and forgiveness. The bottom line, dear devotees, here is that all these deviations due to bad association are potent enough to harm our quest for Krishna consciousness and hence need to be kept at bay for most of our remaining life. Now coming to the last voice, the lolium, which means greed, that acts against the progress of devotional service to the Lord. Lolium consists of excessive, disproportionate, insatiable desire. Srila Prabhupada explained its 3 different types. Number 1 is bhakti, which is a form of enjoyment. It acts through enjoying material things. Then second is mukti, liberation, which acts through jnana yoga and attaining impersonal Brahman only. Such people are never satisfied because they fail to establish a relationship with Brahman, and there is every likelihood of falling back again to repeated births and deaths. So again, an incomplete progress. Now the third type is siddhi, or perfection through dhyana yoga, where people get mystical powers, but in turn they get trapped by these powers, and while practicing these mystical powers, they forget God in the process. So again, it is an imperfect sojourn to spiritual sky and cannot be taken as the best option. Now, while we are discussing all this, it would be worthwhile to refer to Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 9, verse 149, where it is stated that the real maverick is a devotee of Lord Krishna, who is desireless and peaceful. Fruity workers desire material enjoyment, jnanis, liberation, yogis, material opulence. Therefore, they are lusty and cannot be peaceful. Coming back or moving further on to lolium, we can say that lolium in all its hues, colors, and categories, whether it is bhakti, mukti, or siddhi, it definitely messes up with our priority for Krishna consciousness. It acts in a very subtle and gradual way through Maya. Maya lays a trap, keeps convincing on decreasing our priority for Krishna, ultimately leading to loss of higher taste, giving into lower taste for material enjoyment, becoming more important in the long run. However, we can always correct ourselves by taking recourse to course correction by joining an association of true devotees where Krishna is taken as top priority. By such corrective actions, dear devotees, we not only improve our score in spiritual realm, but also positively contribute in creating an ideal society where enmity is destroyed, economic maladjustments corrected, political stability gained, and a spiritual community of brotherhood established on Mother Earth. And this is what our spiritual guru and founder of ISKCON, late Srila Prabhupada, had vowed to establish across the globe. The ISKCON is very much here to educate and train us all in this all important mission. And right now, we are with ISKCON, thanks largely to Anurag Prabhu for giving us all the guidance that we really need in this endeavor. I am thankful again to Prabhuji for giving me this opportunity. If there are some lapses or something missing, kindly make a note of it and add to what I've already said. Thanks very much again to all of you for giving me your ears. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ishwar Uncle Ji. That was very, very nice. You really spoke from the heart with a lot of conviction, lot of confidence. When you were speaking, it did not feel like that you were mechanically repeating what you heard last time. Rather, it felt that you really believed in what you have what you have heard in the previous class. You had a lot of confidence in what you were suggesting to others. Not only confidence, rather you had a sense of urgency, sense of an appeal to the audience that you were trying to address, and that is what actually uh, the sign of a very good preacher. A preacher is not somebody who is simply educating people. Rather, he is internally convinced so deeply, and he now cannot withhold his emotions and want to actually reach out to others and share the message that he has learned and has understood with others. So I could see all those ingredients in your little 10-15 minutes talk. Every point that you have mentioned was absolutely correct. There was no lapses, and I really fully enjoyed your presentation today. Thank you very much, and I would uh, really like that you kindly consider sharing your knowledge, sharing your learnings, as you are a very senior person, uh, and with that age and with that wisdom, it will be very easy for you to educate others. So don't worry that you are in a senior age, but by grace of Lord, whatever opportunity you have, I would request that you kindly try to utilize it in spreading out this message to others. So with those words, I really appreciate and thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for encouraging, and I'm already making small efforts, and with your kind of guidance, I think maybe I'm able to add some more to it.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah. So now let us start with our topic today. And now we are shifting to the second part of this Nectar of Instruction. So already we have classified this book into three different themes. The first theme is avoid things that are unfavorable to bhakti. And among these, among in this theme, we have studied about six urges. That was text number 1, and we also studied about six vices. That was text number 2. So we completed text number 2 in 3 classes, and the class we had last time actually completed all those six vices. And just now, Ishwar Prabhu have summarized the last two of those vices, which was Lolyam and Janasanga. So now we are now in text number 3. We are shifting from we are shifting to the new theme. Now we are talking about adopting things that are favorable to bhakti. Like when we go to a doctor, the doctor uh, help us or advises us in two ways. One thing is to avoid certain things so that we don't deteriorate our situation further, and he also advises certain favorable things which actually strengthens us, which actually takes us towards recovery, improvement of our health, and so on. Similarly, in the on the path of bhakti also, we would want to avoid certain things that are unfavorable, and while avoiding those which are unfavorable, we want to uh, increase, or we want to facilitate more and more those things which are favorable to bhakti, because actual nourishment in bhakti comes not from avoiding things. Actual nourishment from bhakti actually comes from adopting things that are favorable to bhakti. And in that light, we will be studying six virtues, six favorable things which are favorable to our bhakti, and that is mainly mentioned in text number 3. Now, this particular table or this particular slide tells us about how the various verses in Nectar of Instruction are classified according to various stages in bhakti. So, we have discussed this in the past. There are 9 stages. Shraddha, it starts with Shraddha. One must have little faith. Then, with that faith, it takes them to those association, those people who actually have that Shraddha or that practice, and that is called Sadhu Sangha. When we are in Sadhu Sangha, we, because of that association, we start to do similar things that the sadhus are doing, and the sadhus are interested none other than doing bhajan of the Supreme Lord. And then we start doing bhajan kriya. With bhajan kriya, purification starts. We start to give up our bad habits. That is called anartha nivratti. Slowly, as we leave our bad habits, we become purified. We become happier, and our faith in the process of bhakti becomes more stronger, and that is called nishtha. Once our faith starts to become stronger and we get further purification, then now that nishtha turns up into taste, and that is called as ruchi. With ruchi, for a prolonged period, now after practicing bhakti more and more, now it becomes asakti. In asakti, in the stage of asakti, we actually now having such a situation that where we cannot live without doing devotional practices. That is called asakti. And then gradually it leaves us to bhav, emotions. When we have those kind of loving exchanges with the Lord, loving feelings with the Lord, uh, we actually start demonstrating those emotions at the level of the body. That is called bhav. And ultimately it leads us to the final goal, which is known as prem. So this is all 9 stages of bhakti. We have discussed them in the past, but I thought that let us recap that also. And according to all these 9 stages of bhakti, all the 11 verses in Updeshamrit, Nectar of Instruction, have been classified here in this slide. So text 1 to 3 still deals with the first level, which is known as Shraddha, faith. Hmm. So let us now come to the verse. So the text 3 is now in front of you. I will sing it for you, will recite it for you. उत्साहान् निश्चयाद्धैर्यात् तत्तत् कर्म प्रवर्तनात् संगत्यागात् सतो वृत्ते षड्भिर्भक्ति प्रसिद्ध्यति. So let us look at the meaning of each of the lines. Utsahan Nishchayad Dhairyad. So there are three virtues mentioned in the first line. Utsahan. Utsahan is translated as enthusiasm or eagerness. Nishchayad. Nishchayad is confidence or firm faith. Dhairyad is patience or fortitude. Then tat tat karma pravartanat. Tat tat karma pravartanat is another virtue, fourth virtue, which is accepting principles which are favorable to bhakti. And what are those activities or principles that are favorable to bhakti? That is Shravanam Kirtanam. We will discuss that more when we discuss this verse in the class. Then the fifth one is Sangatyagat. The sixth one is Sato Vritte. Sangatyagat is abandoning bad association. So we already have this discussion on association in our previous class, which is when we discussed about Janasanga. Uh, Janasanga, we had discussed something like as a vice. Sangatyagat is something very similar, which is abandoning bad association. And Satovritti. Satovritti is following the footsteps of the previous acharyas, previous great souls, great Mahatmas, devotees, and so on. So the fourth line says here, Shadbir Bhakti Prasiddhyati. Shadbir is actually Sanskrit for six. Shadbir. These six activities, bhakti, prasiddhyati means assures advancement in bhakti without hindrance. Prasiddhyati means assure advancement. So Shadbir Bhakti Prasiddhyati. So it says the translation of this verse goes something like this, as Prabhupada has translated. There are six principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service: being enthusiastic, but that is utsaha; endeavoring with confidence, that is Nishchaya; and being patient, that is dharya; acting according to the regulative principle such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Here that is hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. So this is about tat tat karma pravartanat. Then abandoning the association of non-devotees, that means sangatyagat, and following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, that is satovritti. These six principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. That's how Srila Prabhupada has translated in the book. And now let us look at the some of these word meanings that you might find a little difficult. So I've identified four of them. One is tat tat karma. So tat tat karma is something like various activities which are favorable for devotional service. Tat tat karma. Tat tat means those activities. Then pravartanat. Pravartanat would mean by performing, by acting on those activities. So tat tat karma pravartanat. Then britti. Britti is by following in the footsteps. Sato britti, by following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. And prasiddhyati is advances or become successful. Prasiddhyati. So these are some of the word meanings which are you might find a little difficult, but uh, if you understand these meanings, understanding the words becomes a much more easier process. So like always, I have classified this text now into several themes, and the first theme is the science and glory of bhakti. And you would notice that in the class today, probably 75% of the class we will elaborate on this theme alone, because bhakti has a particular or a popular understanding among masses in general, but that is something which we need to understand, that the popular reason may not be the correct reason or correct explanation or correct understanding of a particular idea or a particular topic. Similarly, bhakti is also understood in a popular way among the masses in general. However, Srila Prabhupada has given a very scientific explanation of bhakti, what actually bhakti means. What is the science of bhakti? What does bhakti really means? How it is expressed, how it is done, and so on. So, since we want to establish that particular idea very well and ground everyone in the class to that particular concept of bhakti rather than the popular concept of bhakti. So we will spend a lot of time to understand this particular theme, the science and glory of bhakti, as Srila Prabhupada has explained in the purport. Then we will briefly touch upon the 9 processes of bhakti. After that, there are 6 virtues: utsaha, nishchaya, dhairya, tat karma pravartana, sang tyag, and satovritti. We have already discussed each of the translation and meaning of each of these words just now. So we will touch upon each of these categories one by one in our class, and we will finally conclude with the glories of bhakti yoga in the end, that as Prabhupada has explained. So like that, the themes of these purport are in front of you, and we will first of all start with our discussion with the science and glory of bhakti. So Srila Prabhupada in his purport has first of all started with these words. He is writing here: devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. Its substance is practical activity. Srila Rup Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu has defined devotional service as follows. And then Srila Prabhupada gives a verse from Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, and then he continues to develop the topic further. But most importantly, in these lines, what he has kind of condemned, what bhakti is not, he is mentioning here is devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. So he has used 2 words here: sentimental speculation and imaginative ecstasy. Now, this is something which is a popular understanding of when we talk about bhakti. You are feeling bhakti, you are having bhakti, so you might be feeling some sentiments, you might be feeling some kind of an ecstasy when you are doing some bhakti. For example, somebody might say that no, today I was meditating, I was thinking about something, and I saw Radha and Krishna in my dreams. Radha and Krishna were having Ras Leela. It was so nice, it was so ecstatic, it was so blissful, and so on, like that. Now this is something, I am not saying that somebody may not have that feeling, but in general, those kind of sentiments are rare, are very, very rare, uh, and not easily found among normal people, in general, in common people. So, most of the time, when people do express bhakti or do explain bhakti in those terms, generally, it is not the case, and this is simply some sentiment, some speculation, some imaginative ecstasy, some speculation like that. I have seen some vision. I'm having some vision of something which sounds like devotional, and because of that vision, I'm feeling some ecstasy, some bliss, and so on. But bhakti is actually not a sentimental speculation, neither it is imaginative ecstasy. But Srila Prabhupada in his purport actually is giving us an explanation. He's saying bhakti is a sort of cultivation. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. Bhakti is some sort of an activity. It is something, a practical action. Now let us understand those concepts uh, by with the help of a very official definition of bhakti as given by Srila Rup Goswami in this text called Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu is a book. In English, we call it Nectar of Devotion. We are also going to study this book, Nectar of Devotion, after we finish Nectar of Instruction, Updeshamrit. But since the topic is about what is bhakti, what is the science of bhakti, we are bringing this definition of bhakti in this purport. And here the verse goes like this: Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukullena krishnanu Sheelanam bhakti ruttama. So what does line by line translation says? Anyabhilashita shunyam. Anyabhilashita shunyam means free from extraneous motives. Extraneous motives means anything other than is actually uh, not advisable, not recommended. Anyabhilashita shunyam. Shunyam means zero. So free from any other motive. That is what the first line means. And examples of other motives have been given in the second line, which is Gyan Karma Adi Anavritam, which means devoid of fruitive karma, impersonal gyan, and all other selfish desires. So gyan, karma, adi. Adi means etc. Other than. So all other selfish desires comes in adi. Gyan, karma. Karma is actually fruitive karma. Fruitive karma means when we do some activity with an intention of expecting certain fruits, in desiring certain fruits, that is something called karma, fruitive karma. Gyan means impersonal gyan. Impersonal gyan means meditating upon impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord and with the desire to attain mukti. Devoid of fruitive karma, impersonal gyan, and all other selfish desires. Anukulyena Krishnanu. Anukulyena Krishnanu. Anukul means favorable. Krishna. Anukulyena means favorable to Lord Krishna. And Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttama means Krishna Anushilanam means cultivation of service in relationship to Krishna. Krishna Anushilanam. Krishna Anushilanam means cultivation of service. Service means some activity in relationship to Krishna. That is called Krishna Anushilanam. And this is something which is called as Bhaktir Uttama. This is known as Uttama Bhakti. Uttam Bhakti means first class devotional service. So this particular verse has been given by Srila Rup Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, and it is known as the Paribhasha Sutra, Paribhasha of pure devotional service, first class devotional service, uh, which is free from any other motive. For example, fruitive karma, impersonal gyan, and all other selfish desire, and acting favorable to Lord Krishna, and developing a mood of cultivation of service in relationship to Krishna, that is known as first class devotional service. So we will discuss more on this Paribhasha Sutra of Bhakti or Uttama Bhakti later on when we discuss Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. But for this purport, we need to focus our attention more on these words Krishna Anushilanam. So the word Krishna Anushilanam means cultivation of service in relationship to Krishna. So here the most important term here is service. Cultivation of service. Service means some activity. Hmm. So as we were saying in the previous slides that there is a popular understanding of bhakti. So what is that popular understanding of bhakti? Popular understanding of bhakti, it is only a matter of heart. Hmm. Certainly bhakti is a matter of heart. It is emotions are involved here, but only matter of heart or only feeling some love for Krishna, that is not actually the understanding of bhakti or complete understanding of bhakti. Uh, it is, but people generally understand that bhakti is only a matter of heart and only if we have some kind of emotions towards the Supreme Lord, feeling love for Krishna. Actually, accurate understanding of bhakti is relationship with Krishna, establishing a relationship with Krishna. And what does happen when we say there is a relationship between two people? There is a relationship between a devotee and the Supreme Lord. What is the most important aspect? The most important aspect of a relationship is that a relationship is based on commitments. There has to be some kind of commitment. And how is that commitment expressed? That commitment is expressed through service. Srila Prabhupada used to give this very common example. Uh, a common example he would give is that when we say that two people love each other or when two people are in a relationship with each other, then there has to be some service involved to express that love, to express that relationship, or to express that the relationship actually exists. Without expressing or without showcasing some service to the other individual, there cannot be a relationship. If two people love each other, how do we test that kind of love? That kind of love can be tested by checking how committed these people are to each other. If people are committed to each other, that certainly means they love each other. That is so. Bhakti is not only a matter of heart, or it is not matter of certain emotional feelings towards somebody or some uh, or towards Supreme Lord Krishna, but that love has to be expressed uh, by expressing certain commitments, by expressing certain activities, by showcasing certain activities. That is actually a proper and a more accurate understanding of bhakti. We will try to understand that aspect by giving number of examples. So one analogy that can be given to understand this is a analogy of mother and child relationship. In a relationship between mother and child, what do we observe? We observe that when a child is very small, kind of almost helpless, cannot take care of himself or herself, then maybe in the dead of night, when the child has some difficulty, starts crying, is feeling hungry, or uh, has some difficulty, some problem, whatever, the mother immediately wakes up and selflessly serves the child. She does not expect anything in return from the child, but in order to give comfort, in order to give happiness, in order to give some pleasure to the child, she selflessly serves the child, uh, even if it is a very difficult circumstances. uh, she sacrifices her own sleep in order to make that the child's sleep is comfortably addressed. And like that, we see that kind of a selfless loving relationship based on sacrifice and service between mother and the child. And when that kind of a relationship is there, we see, what do we see? We see there is a commitment towards the mother, from the side of the mother towards the child. Similarly, the relationship between the devotee and the Lord is something like that. A devotee does not care or does not want to care for his own comfort, rather he mostly cares or want to care for the comfort and happiness and pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So that is what the understanding of bhakti is, and that is expressed through service, some activity. On the same thing, we also like to share one story of a king, Solomon, in whose court there reached two women who claimed that uh, there was a child, and they both of the ladies claimed that the child actually belonged to them. They are the mother of that child. Both the ladies were saying that. King Solomon, being very wise, full of wisdom, uh, could not make out from their arguments that whose child actually this uh, whose child actually this child belongs to, who is actually the real mother. He could not really make out from from their arguments. But then he got an idea. He asked one of his soldiers that please cut this child into two pieces, and since we cannot make out who is the real mother, we will give one half of the child to one mother and the another half to another woman. So after hearing this, one of those ladies actually said that please don't do that. You better give this child to the another lady. I'm okay without the child, but don't please kill this child. So King Solomon, but the other woman who was hearing this actually mentioned, after hearing King Solomon's justice, she said that you made a very good justice. It is okay that half of the child come to me and half goes to the another lady. But the other lady did not agree to it. She said that I don't want this child. Actually, you should give this child to the other lady. Let this child be alive. I'm okay if this child is not with me. So King Solomon immediately understood that who is the real mother, because the real mother could not tolerate that even a small scratch come on the body of the child. She is happy to accept the pain of separation from the child, but not that the child should be cut into two pieces. So, like that, bhakti is also very similar. In bhakti, the devotee doesn't care for his own or her own pleasures and comforts. Rather, he is always looking forward towards giving pleasure and comfort to the Supreme Lord or the devotees of the Supreme Lord. Let us try to understand this with one more story. And this time, this is story from the scriptures. So there was once upon a time when Lord Krishna expressed to his dear devotee Narad Muni that, oh dear Narad, today I am feeling a severe headache and I cannot get relief from this headache. Kindly, can you do something for this? So Narad Muni called for many physicians in the kingdom, and many of those physicians gave a lot of medications to the Lord, but nothing could satisfy or cure the headache of Lord Krishna. Then Lord Krishna mentioned that I think I can get this headache cured only if you can get some dust from the lotus feet of my devotees. So Narad Muni exclaimed, do you really think that the dust of lotus feet of the devotees can cure your headache? Lord Krishna said that yes, I think I am confident that if you bring the dust of the lotus feet of my devotees, that can cure my headache. So Narad Muni went to many devotees and make that request to those devotees, can you please give dust of your feet? Lord Krishna is having severe headache, and dust of your feet, when the Lord will place them on his head, he will actually get cured of his headache. But none of the devotees were willing to give the dust of their feet to Narad Muni. They said that if we give this dust of our feet and Lord places that dust on their head, on his head, we are bound to go to hell, and we don't want to go to hell. Narad Muni came back to Lord Krishna and mentioned to Lord Krishna that this is what happened. I went to many of your devotees and made this request. And in return, what these people say, that if they give their dust and Lord places their dust on their head, on his head, then they are bound to go to hell. Oh, that is the case. Then Lord Krishna said that, okay, in that case, you go to Vrindavan and ask gopis. Gopis are my greatest devotees. So I want to know, what does the gopi do? Then Narad Muni went to Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, gopis were there, and he made the same request to gopis. Can you give the dust of your lotus feet? Lord Krishna is having severe headache, and the Lord is asking that if the dust of my devotee's lotus feet is placed on my head, he will be relieved from the headache. He will feel comfortable. He will feel relieved. Then gopis immediately assembled together. Narad Muni, how much dust do you want? We are willing to give so much of dust. uh, how many bags of dust do you want? Narad Muni exclaimed. He mentioned to the gopis, don't you think that by giving this dust, and when the Lord will place this dust on his head, you will actually suffer, you will go to hell? Then the gopis say that even if we have to go to hell, but it brings pleasure and comfort to the Lord, we are willing to go to hell, but please give this dust and place this dust on the head of the dear Lord Krishna. So, like that, dear devotees, we can see that the mood of gopis was something of selfless love. They are willing to take difficulties, they are willing to take all kind of austerities, even if even if that austerity or difficulties is going to bring pleasure to the Supreme Lord. So that is something which is the mood imbibed in the science of bhakti. We also see something very similar when we see Srila Prabhupada's life. Srila Prabhupada retired and went to Vrindavan for his bhajan, for writing his books and so on, at a very advanced stage. And even if from the perspective of Vedic Varnashram system and so on, if Srila Prabhupada would have lived in Vrindavan for his rest of the age, rest of his life, that would have been considered glorious. That would have even be appreciated by many people. But Srila Prabhupada did not keep his uh, uh, did not keep his living restricted only to Vrindavan. He wanted to serve in best possible capacity. He wanted to serve the mission of his spiritual master in the best possible capacity. And we see that how Srila Prabhupada wrote so many commentaries on the books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, took so much pain to travel all across the United States, started a movement, suffered a lot of pains. He suffered heart attacks while he was in on the voyage to United States, and with so much of pain and difficulties, he started this movement single-handedly, and like that, he tried to serve the Supreme Lord. So the bottom line that I'm trying to emphasize is bhakti is not simply about some emotions, some feelings towards the Lord, but bhakti is about expressing those feelings of love of the Lord by doing some concrete activity, by doing some concrete action. And that is why Srila Prabhupada in his books have not translated bhakti simply as devotion. If you read any of Srila Prabhupada books and you read the verses which are in Sanskrit, so in the Sanskrit verse, the word might have been used as bhakti, but Srila Prabhupada never at any place have translated the word bhakti as devotion. He has translated bhakti as devotional service. So please pay attention to this. He has translated this word bhakti as devotional service. Now, devotional, the word devotional is an adjective. It's a visheshan, it's an adjective. It defines some qualities of the noun it is associated with. And the word service is that noun. Service means seva, service means an activity. Devotional is an adjective, and this is something which is related to the internal mood and internal feeling of the person, of the sadhaka, of the practitioner. But service is something which is an external manifestation of that internal mood. Uh, And what is that internal mood? The word devotion is actually a combination of two aspects. These aspects are the Lord is great, Lord is great, Lord is supreme. Like in Muslims also, they when they pray, they say Allahu Akbar. Akbar means great, Lord is great. But in the Vedic perspective, we also understand Lord is very, very loving. Lord is extremely loving and extremely benevolent. He is very, very karuna mai. He is very, very loving. So devotion is actually a combination of these two feelings: greatness of the Supreme Lord and the loving nature of the Supreme Lord. Even if when you read Srimad Bhagavad Gita and you read the chapters of from 7 to 12, you will realize that in the chapters like 7 and 8, there is an explanation of that the Lord is great. While when we read chapters like 9 and so on, we understand that Lord is very, very magnanimous, Lord is very, very karunamai, and Lord is very, very loving. He's very, very kind. Huh? So like that. So devotion is an internal emotion. That emotion is certainly there, but that emotion is expressed through service. And that is something which is an external expression of the word bhakti. So the point I am trying to emphasize again and again is that devotion is bhakti is not simply feelings. Bhakti is not some sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. Bhakti actually comprises the complete understanding of bhakti comprise of devotional service, doing service for the Lord's devotee or for the Lord in the mood of devotion. In the mood of devotion means that the Lord is supremely great and Lord is supremely loving. So that is something uh, so far we have discussed about what actually is bhakti. Now, how bhakti is done, and some other dynamics of bhakti, let us try to understand. Here in this slide, you will see that the bhakti has been mentioned in two ways. Bhakti is a vehicle and bhakti is an engine. Bhakti is a vehicle means Bhakti is a means to express our devotion, express our service. Uh, uh, Bhakti is expressed through service, and bhakti is an engine, means that bhakti is nourished through service. So one is, I would say, means. When we say vehicle, it means it's a service is the means to express our bhakti. When we say engine, it means service is the way by which our bhakti is nourished. So engine means, like there's a train and there's an engine in front of the number of bogies or number of carts that are behind the engine. So what is the main function of the engine? The main function of the engine is to pull these carts. It energizes those carts so that the cart become mobilized. Similarly, when we perform bhakti, when we do some service to the Lord or to the devotees, that service nourishes our bhakti. It actually grows our bhakti. And uh, when our bhakti grows, how is that bhakti expressed? That bhakti is expressed through service. So that is something which I would like to mention here. Bhakti is both a vehicle as well as an engine. As a vehicle, it means that bhakti is expressed through service, and an engine, it means bhakti is nourished through service. But the most important part is service, some commitment, some adherence to the cause of bhakti as a service towards the Lord or Lord's devotees. So when I mentioned to you that bhakti is nourished through service, bhakti is nourished through service. So somebody might get this feeling that maybe at the moment bhakti is absent within us, and when we do some service, when we do some seva, then that bhakti actually slowly grows. But it is not like that. Bhakti is already present within us. Bhakti is already there within inside us in completeness. However, that bhakti is at the moment is covered. It is covered with lot of other nonsensical uh, items on, which is something like a covering on of her heart, and these are kam, krodh, lobh, moh, mad, matsarya. All these external attractions that we have, it is covered with all those external attractions, lagpie, lust, anger, greed, pride, illusion, envy. And how do we know? From where do we learn this? We learn this from this literature called Chaitanya Charitamrit, this scripture. So in the Madhya Leela, chapter number 22, text number 107, it mentions Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabhu Nai Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karay Uday. So let us understand each of these lines. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. So it says Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. What it means is pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. So the first line means that love for Krishna, pure love for Krishna, is already there in the heart of living entities. Sadhya kabhu nai. Sadhya kabhu nai means it is not something to be gained from another source. So it is not something which has to be externally gained. It is not something which I have to find out or we have to find out something outside us. No, it is already there within us. It is already there. Then Shravan Adi Shuddha Chitte. Shravan Adi Shuddha Chitte. What it means? When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting. So it says Shravan Adi. Adi means etc. Shravan. Shravan means hearing. So by hearing and chanting, by doing those activities of devotional service, which is Shravan Adi, what happens is that our heart is purified. Shuddha Chitte. And then when the heart is purified, what happens? Karay Uday. This love naturally awakens. This love naturally awakens. So this is a very important aspect. And science of bhakti. Now we are talking about science of bhakti. How does bhakti works? Bhakti works by regularly hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord. Shravan Adi Shuddha Chitte. And what happens with that regular hearing and chanting? Our heart becomes purified, our heart becomes cleansed, And when the heart becomes cleansed, then the love naturally awakens. It is something like when there is a sun in the sky, and many times on the rainy day, this sun is actually covered by clouds. When the sun is covered by clouds, we can't express or we can't experience any sunlight. But when the clouds are removed, then the sun shines very bright and we can experience that sunshine. Similarly, that sun of Krishna Prem is already there within our heart, but it is dormant. It is covered with all kind of nonsense like lust, anger, greed, pride, illusion, envy. But when we do Shravan, when we do chanting, when we do hearing about the glories of the Lord, then that leads us to the Shuddha Chitte. It is purified. And then that pure love for Lord Krishna is Karay Uday. It naturally awakens. So, in order to understand that part, we give an analogy of a person having an amnesia. Like we are having an amnesia at the moment that we are actually part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. We are actually His children, and we have forgotten that relationship. And that relationship is already there, but we have forgotten. Like in many Bollywood movies, you would remember there are many Bollywood movies that are made on this theme, that there is a hero and there is a heroine, and the hero actually for some reason meets an accident and he loses his memory, and when he comes back and notices, and the heroine approaches the hero, and says that I used to have a relationship with you, I was in love with you. The hero uh, kind of forgets about the lady, and he says that no, I don't remember you. It is something like he forgets, but already he had a relationship with that lady in the previous life. So something similar, we are also in a situation we are having an amnesia. We have forgotten that relationship with the Supreme Lord. But when that hero is brought back to the same previous environment, those activities that he was doing together with the heroine, they were repeated in front of that hero. Then uh, there is a slow and gradual revival of those memory that he was having in the past, and when that memory is revived, and then the relationship is once again established. So bhakti is very very similar. We are also the lost children of God. We have forgotten our relationship with the Lord, but when we do this activity of shravan adi, uh, when we do this activity of shravanam and kirtanam, then that lost relationship is revived, and we can once again experience that relationship with the Supreme Lord. And so the bottom line is, in the whole number of slides that we have discussed so far in the science of bhakti, is that the bhakti actually is associated with some commitment, some service. So like you are also coming to these class very committedly, coming to the class, many of you are also showing your commitment by writing the various quizzes, showing commitment by coming forward. People are taking this activity, taking this service to recite the summary of the previous class, doing some Mangala Charan prayers, doing some chanting of the holy names. You might have been doing some committed sadhana in your own time also after this class. So this is something which is expected and recommended, that have some kind of commitment towards the Lord. We show to the Lord that we are committed to you, and that showing of our commitment is also actually expression of our bhakti, expression of our love, expression of our reviving of the relationship with the Supreme Lord. And as per scriptures, these activities can be offered or can be practiced in 9 possible ways, and these are known as 9 processes of devotional service. And this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam where Prahlad Maharaj is reciting this verse. He is saying, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. So this Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, we have discussed this verse in the previous classes also, but I will quickly just summarize this. Shravanam means hearing, Kirtanam means chanting. Who's hearing and who's chanting? Regarding what? about Vishnu, about Supreme Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. Then Smaranam Pad Sevanam. Smaranam means remembering. Pad Sevanam means serving the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Archanam means worshipping the deities of the Lord. Vandanam means offering obeisances to the Lord. And Dasyam means acting as a servant of the Lord. So acting as a servant means, like we have been, when we get initiation in our movement, we are given a spiritual name. So for example, I have been given this name as Keshav Gopal Das. So Keshav Gopal stands for the Supreme Lord, and the word Das actually means the servant of the Supreme Lord. So Keshav Gopal Das. So the name is given to remind us always that we are the servant of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, the eighth one is Sakyam. Sakyam means making friends with the Lord. This is something which is at a higher level of relationship with the Supreme Lord. Uh, like Arjun had that kind of relationship, making friends with the Lord. And Atma Nivedanam. Atma Nivedanam would mean surrendering oneself fully to the Lord. This is the ninth limb. However, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada has recommended Shravanam. In this verse also you see Shravanam has been given the very first activity is Shravanam and Kirtanam. And Srila Prabhupada also has emphasized a lot on Shravanam. If you read in Bhagavad Gita, uh, chapter number 7, verse number 1, uh, there Lord Krishna uses this word Tachrunu. Tachrunu. And Tachrunu, actually Lord Krishna is referring to Arjuna and saying that I'm going to tell you another way of approaching me, and that is the pure devotional service. So I'm going to tell you this science, Tachrunu. Please listen, please hear. So Prabhupada, in that purport of Bhagavad Gita, have elaborately explained that how does bhakti can actually be practiced, and that's where he has emphasized a lot on hearing. So here also in this purport, Srila Prabhupada has emphasized on Shravanam. Shravanam is the first and most important step. Like Prabhupada used to very popularly say that if you want to see God, you cannot see God with your eyes. You can see God, you can only see God through ears. That's Prabhupada always would like to teach his disciples like that. So what does it mean? You can see God only through ears. That means that you can revive that relationship with God only by regularly hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord. So that is very very important. And I would request all the devotees who are part of this class that besides chanting the holy name Mahamantra on a regular basis, on a daily basis, maybe one round or two rounds or whatever number you want to commit, it is also very important to hear about the Supreme Lord. So, one opportunity you already have, that you are coming to the classes on Sundays or on weekends where we are discussing these topics from the scriptures. So, that is also Shravanam. But you need to increase the level of Shravanam not only to these classes but also to other classes by other devotees, by maybe other senior devotees like sannyasis and maybe other exalted learned souls that are there already in our movement. So you should also try to develop this habit of hearing at least maybe 30 minutes a day or maybe 1 hour a day. Some topic you can find out from the internet, from YouTube or maybe other media platforms, and need to do some kind of hearing. You can do that hearing maybe while you are doing some activity, maybe you are cooking in the kitchen, you can play a lecture in the background and you can hear that lecture and so on. Or maybe you are uh, uh, taking some rest on the bedside, having some relaxation on the bed. You can, in the background, you can try to play some lecture and so on. You are having a lunch, you can maybe play some lecture in the background. So something you can hear. But dedicated hearing also you can do, where you only focus on the hearing. Maybe you can go for a morning walk, and while going for a morning walk you can put a lecture, have earphones. Now the technology is so advanced that you can do something like that. So like that, you should make a point to hear and do some shravanam uh, as a regular committed activity to nourish your bhakti, your devotional mood and emotion, that will nourish your bhakti. And when your bhakti will be nourished, your services, your commitment towards other services will also go up simultaneously. But one caution is that you should hear only from authorized people. Hmm. Not everything that has been offered in the name of spirituality in the outside world actually uh, classifies or qualifies as proper and authorized. So to be safe, probably you can hear from established devotees in our movement. There can be other devotees also who might be speaking authorized text, but in case you are not sure about them, then best to stick to those who can you can really understand that they are proper and authorized, and will not actually mislead you or will not teach you something which is different from the siddhanta, different from the philosophical discussion. So need to hear from the authorized people. And uh, when you hear from authorized people who are like spiritual teachers and spiritual masters and so on, uh, Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse number 34 and Mundaka Upanishad uh, chapter 2 verse number 12, they are also our guiding principles. So in Bhagavad Gita 4.34, it is mentioned, tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya updekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshina. So that these are the two verses, Gita 4.34 and Mundaka Upanishad 1.2.12. So we have learned these words in the past also. So it is about how to approach as authorized person, how to approach a teacher. It is all about that. But the most important point is that when we approach these teachers are able to impart that knowledge to us because they are tattvadarshina. Updekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. So these are people who have understood the tattva, who have understood the absolute truth properly. And since they have understood the absolute truth properly, they can give that education to us. Similar devotee is Srila Prabhupada, and we are understanding absolute truth through the books of Srila Prabhupada. Huh? So Prabhupada is that Gyani, and he is giving that darshan of the tattva, darshan of that absolute truth through his books. Then similarly in Mundaka Upanishad also, Tad Vigyan Artham Sa Gurum Eva Bigachet. So the first line says that in order to understand that Vigyan, the Artham, Tad Vigyan Artham, to understand the Artham of that Vigyan, of that spiritual knowledge, Sa Gurum Eva Bigachet. One must approach a guru. One must. The word eva. Eva means it's a qualifier. It means must. Certainly. The word eva in Sanskrit means certainly. One must certainly approach a guru. And how one should approach the guru? Samit panihi. Panihi means hand. Like we have pani grahan sanskar. When we marry somebody, there is a in Sanskrit we call it pani grahan sanskar. Pani grahan sanskar means accepting the hand of the bride, and that is called pani grahan. So the same word is here used here, panihi. Samit panihi. Samit means what a disciple or a student can offer. The student is not earning. So what service he can offer? He can go to the forest, cut some wood, and that is known as samit, samidha. So Samit Panhi cut some wood for doing some yagya, doing some havan to the spiritual master. So it is saying that how this person should approach a guru, Samit Panhi, with the mood of service. Yeah? And what is the qualification of this guru? The qualification of this guru is Shrotriyam and Brahmanishtham. Shrotriyam means, the word Shrotriyam comes from the word Shruti. Shruti means the Vedas. So this person is well versed in the teachings of the Vedas, the well versed in the conclusion of the Vedas, Shrotriyam and Brahmanishtham. So this person's job is not something like a part-time job. He is firmly situated in Brahma. He is firmly situated in spiritual knowledge. In that mood of spirituality is firmly situated. Brahmanishtham. So like that, the important point is we need to hear we need to do Shravan and Kirtan on a daily basis, on a regular basis. Why? Because that is going to nourish our bhakti. Because bhakti is all about commitment, and one of the commitment we need to make is do Shravanam and Kirtanam. And when we do that Shravanam and Kirtanam from the authorized people, that bhakti within our heart actually grows. It nourishes our consciousness. It slowly and gradually takes us towards the Supreme Lord. Now coming to the two virtues, one is utsaha and the another one is Nishchaya. So we will not spend a lot of time, but we'll give some 5-6 minutes on each of these aspects, each of these virtues. However, the introduction that I have given to you about bhakti is very, very important, and we need to understand these virtues of utsaha and Nishchaya based on the introduction I have given to you short while ago. So utsaha actually means enthusiasm or eagerness. Eagerness means curiosity. And like in our uh, there's a Vedic aphorism called Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Athato Brahma Jigyasa means spiritual life starts with some jigyasa, with some eagerness, with some curiosity. huh? So that is that eagerness to learn more and more, eagerness to understand, to progress more and more should always be there. And that is called utsaha. Utsaha means enthusiasm. So what is utsaha? Huh? Why we should have utsaha and what is utsaha? So why we should have utsaha? Srila Prabhupada in the purport is giving us this explanation. Utsaha actually is needed in any field or any walk of life for success. If we want to become a cricketer, if we want to become a engineer, if we want to become a doctor, if we want to become a chartered accountant, if we want to become anything in our life, we need utsaha. And that is needed in any field of success. For example, if there's a student in a class, so the student need to be enthusiastic. And what are the symptoms of enthusiasm? The symptoms of enthusiasm is that he need to be attentive in the class, he need to be punctual in the class, he need to participate in the class, ask some relevant question, express his curiosity. He should probably come prepared in the class by doing some pre-reading and so on, do his homework well whenever there is a opportunity or whenever there is a request from the teacher, prepare well for exams, attempt the exams with full commitment, with full labor and so on, hard work. These are all symptoms of utsaha, and these symptoms are needed in any field for success. And bhakti, the field of bhakti is no different. So we need that kind of utsaha, we need that kind of commitment in the field of bhakti as well. And what is that utsaha? How do we define utsaha? Srila Prabhupada has given this definition of utsaha means endeavoring with intelligence and creativity. Endeavoring with intelligence and creativity. Endeavoring with intelligence would mean uh, that, for example, if we want to have enthusiasm for cooking, we have a lot of enthusiasm for cooking. So uh, we may go to the kitchen and tell the head cook that we have a lot of enthusiasm for cooking, but the head cook might ask, say, what do you know, what dish do you know to cook? Then we might say that we actually don't know any dish. What can we cook? Now that is something, enthusiasm is there, but we have not utilized our intelligence. Yeah? We need to serve with intelligence means we need to serve with those skills actually we possess. If we want to, if we are really enthusiastic for cooking, then we must learn cooking. We need to make a committed effort to learn cooking, and that's how we need to endeavor with intelligence when we say utsaha. And creativity means that there are at times in bhakti we have those situations where we may actually uh, uh, have utsaha, we may have intelligence, we may know the topic, we may understand the topic, but we may not have the creativity. I'll give you an example. For example, when this COVID-19 situation started, the people could not socialize, people could not gather in congregations to uh, to have this sadhu sangha, to have this Krishna katha and so on. But they found creative ways to do the sadhu sangha. And what are those creative means? They resorted to facilities like online classes, facilities like maybe YouTube recordings, internet classes, or classes by telephones and so on. So that actually that utsaha is expressed by endeavor, utsaha is expressed through intelligence, and utsaha is also expressed through creativity. So this is what is utsaha and why we should have utsaha. This slide is all about that. Moving further and understanding the aspect of utsaha even further. Now, how to test whether we have utsaha or not? How do we know whether somebody has utsaha? Now, when we see some devotee jumping very high in the kirtans, that certainly is an indication that it is very utsahi. He's very pumped up. He's very charged up. But does that only mean that jumping high up in the kirtans or dancing very enthusiastically or energetically in kirtan, does it only mean utsaha? No, utsaha is actually tested by sustained commitment for a prolonged period of time. If a person is really utsahi, if a person is really enthusiastic, that is tested by sustained commitment for a sufficient prolonged period of time. That is how we can test our utsaha. Are we committed to certain activity, certain service for a prolonged period of time? That is actually a big test or a good test of our utsaha, enthusiasm. And how to implement utsaha? Srila Prabhupada mentioned in his purport, uh, the utsaha can be not only restricted only to certain activities that are popularly known or culturally known, directly connected with bhakti. For example, chanting, for example, maybe doing some arti or deity worship. That is certainly those activities which we need to do to express our bhakti. But the domain of bhakti is not only restricted to only arti, chanting, deity worship, etc. But the domain of bhakti can be increased even wider. Now, Prabhupada is explaining this and giving this term called Yukta Vairagya. So, in order to understand Yukta Vairagya, first of all, we need to understand what is Vairagya. So, Vairagya would mean detachment from the worldly activities, detachment from the worldly articles. So, for example, those people who are called as Vairagis or renunciants, they are not expected to own a house. They are not expected to have a bank balance. They are not expected to have collected many articles for their living. That is something which is known as Vairagya. But Prabhupada here is giving another aspect of bhakti. He's saying is that yukta vairagya. Yukta vairagya means understanding. It is more of an internal mood where the practitioner understands that this article actually does not belong to me, but this article or this facility actually is meant for the Supreme Lord. And since it is meant for Supreme Lord, it has to be used in the service of the Supreme Lord. So, in that case, even if you are a householder, having a house, having a car, having a property, and so on, if you see your property, see your facilities in that consciousness that it belongs to the Supreme Lord, in that consciousness, you can engage those articles, engage those facilities in the service of the Supreme Lord. Like you can have a house. In your house, you can organize a meeting where you can facilitate kirtan, where you can facilitate shravanam, and so on. Like that, you can turn any facility into Krishna facility by having this feeling of yukta vairagya. So, how do we implement our utsaha? We need not restrict our utsaha only to those cultural forms of bhakti for which it is very well known, but we can increase the ambit of our utsaha to more activities, more articles by understanding this feeling of or concept of yukta vairagya. And Srila Prabhupada in his purport has given this example of dictaphone. So dictaphone is some instrument which is used to record a speech. So Srila Prabhupada used to write his books not by pen and paper. Actually, he would record his words in a dictaphone, and that recording will go to the disciples, some of his disciples, who would actually transcribe his dictations into text, and those texts Srila Prabhupada would edit, review, and then they will go for publishing. So dictaphone's example actually is that dictaphone is made up of all those ingredients like earth, air, fire, water, ether. All those ingredients are nothing but energies of the Supreme Lord Krishna. And once a devotee understands that these ingredients are actually energies of the Supreme Lord, everything in this world actually belongs to Krishna. And when everything belongs to Krishna, everything can be potentially used in the service of Supreme Lord. And that is how we express our utsaha. That is what how we implement our utsaha in the mood of yukta vairagya. Finally, coming to the last slide of today's class, which is Nishchaya. Hmm. What is Nishchaya? Nishchaya means confidence or faith. Nishchaya means confidence or faith. We become confident when we have faith, when we have a strong faith or unshakable faith in something. Uh, If we know that we have prepared our lessons well, then we will have confidence that we will be able to write our exams well. So that is something which is known as Nishchaya. So, what is Nishchaya? Nishchaya is faith and confidence. And faith and confidence in what? Faith and confidence in the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Faith and confidence in the word of our Guru, of the word of our spiritual teacher like Srila Prabhupada or many other spiritual teachers that are there in our ISKCON society. Or other authorized teachers which may not be in ISKCON society, but they are actually authorized in the sense that they are repeating the same message that they have heard from their teachers and in line of proper disciplic succession. So, faith and confidence in the word of scriptures and Guru, that is Nishchaya. Faith and confidence is also that bhakti alone is the ultimate objective of our life. Yeah? And no other process, for example, karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtang yoga, actually can give us enduring benefit in the long run. So, that is the definition of faith and confidence uh, in the scriptures, in the Guru, and in the process of bhakti. That is faith and confidence, that is Nishchaya. And also, Nishchaya means surrender. Surrender means confidence in Krishna's protection. Always be confident that Krishna, Lord Krishna, will always protect me. Like you remember this word from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, where Lord Krishna says, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. The devotee is always confident that Lord Krishna will always be there for the yoga kshemam. He will always actually provide me what I'm lacking, and he will always protect me what I'm already having. So already having this confidence in Krishna's protection that the Lord will protect my faith, Lord will protect all the devotional faith that I have at the moment. But not only he will protect that faith, but also help me in executing that faith by means of devotional service, by means of some commitment, by means of some activity. So that is called confidence in Krishna's protection. And we see that confidence in Krishna's protection at every moment in Srila Prabhupada's life. Srila Prabhupada, when he went to United States on the order of his guru, he was not having anything substantial with him. Like he had very small amount of money with him, he had very limited resources, he practically knew nobody in United States. But what he had, what asset did he took with him to United States? That was Nishchaya, that confidence and faith, that confidence that when Lord Krishna is arranging all this, he will certainly arrange uh, in the future also, and he will certainly protect my faith, he will certainly help me in executing my faith, in executing this devotional service in the long run. And uh, how Lord Krishna protected Srila Prabhupada's faith, how Lord Krishna helped Srila Prabhupada in executing his service is no secret now to us. We can see that Srila Prabhupada uh, could start a worldwide movement, and we all the devotees of ISKCON, all the devotees who are now participating in this program are all beneficiaries of that Nishchaya, of that strong confidence that Srila Prabhupada took with him. So with that, I would like to conclude the class today. All glories to Shri Updeshamrit. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Rupa Goswami. And now we can open the class for any questions, takeaways, comments, and discussions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Very
Krishna,
nice
Prabhuji.
and simple class, Prabhuji. Very
Okay,
much
okay,
nice
Manish Prabhuji.
understanding.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, Ishwar Prabhu, you were saying something?
So it's really very interesting and very useful inputs regarding bhakti devotional service.
Mhm.
But I have a small question while discussing the role of eyes and ears.
Mhm.
Perhaps, as I understand, that finally we would like to see,
Hmm.
not just hear about the Lord, finally we would like to see Him and then develop relationship. That is how it happens. Only
Yeah.
ears can't give us relationship. So finality lies with eyes in seeing. So our final effort should be that only. So eyes do have a very positive role because once we see the Lord, only then we become relatives. I think hearing alone takes us nearer to Him, but we cannot be with Him without seeing. This is how I look at.
Yeah. So you are right that seeing personally the Lord is actually a very high level of realization,
Yes,
and can manifest in somebody's life at a very advanced stage. So
right,
for all practical purposes, seeing for us or a devotees at whatever level we are, seeing
right.
in our situation actually means hearing
Yes,
for
okay,
all practical
okay.
purpose. Yeah.
Right, right.
So very correct. Yes. Okay. Any other comment or any other remark? So looks like the class was simple and devotees could absorb and digest. And once again, I would like to request that besides regular chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which I probably presume that many of you would have been doing in your regular day-to-day life, I would also urge the devotees to kindly involve and include regular Shravanam. That means hearing Krishna conscious lectures, classes, and so on by many devotees, many learned devotees that are there, and you can find that resource on the various media platforms. So if you include that also as part of your daily sadhana, that is certainly going to help you nourish your bhakti in the time to come. So with that concluding remark, I would like to close the class today. Uh, and thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us. Let us continue with the class next Sunday, same time, same way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Prabhu.
you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Thank
Krishna,
you,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
you.
Hare
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
Thank you,
you.
Krishna,
Prabhu. Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna
Thank you.
Mataji. Thank you.
Thank
Hare
you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Parsarji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.